Welcome to the global phenomenon, Surviving the Survivor, where we're all just trying to survive in a rough world.
And we are somewhere around episode 55. It is hard to believe, Carmela. As we were going on air, you said you had a thought. I would hate to keep you from your thought. What is your thought?
No, about the person we interviewed.
The person who we didn't interview yet, but we did interview because we do this out of chronological order. What is your thought on the person we just interviewed who the audience has not heard that we have interviewed?
Well, when I can tell, I will tell. I don't have to tell now.
Karm, do you think that by episode 3000 you will understand that we do this out of chronological order?
I don't need to know that we do it. Why do we do it, by the way?
Because of time constraints. But let me, I pulled up something here on my phone. I had a very rough week for many reasons. And I texted you at 5:42 on, I believe it was Tuesday or Monday afternoon. And I said to you in the text, can we speak later? I'm in the 5, the 6, the 7, and the 11, meaning I'm in all of those newscasts. There was breaking news. I cannot handle being yelled at today. Do you know what your response was?
No.
It was one word. I have it right here on my phone, and I will put this out on Instagram. I said, once again, can we speak later? I'm in the 5, 6, 7, 11. I cannot handle being yelled at today. To which your response was, pussy, exclamation mark. Then I said, what? Because I was actually stunned, even though I shouldn't have been.
And then?
And you wrote, don't be so sublimely delicate that you cannot handle a little yelling from me. And then you wrote later on, which is something that a hippie would say, which I think was a typo. But anyway, this is just a glimpse into our world. I'm asking you not to.
He is.
What, a pussy?
My son, the pussy.
Anyway, the guy we just interviewed, who they're about to hear from, some people might say he is a legend. Others might say he's out of his mind.
I know what he is.
What is he, by the way?
By the way, after we interviewed him,
yeah,
in the future, like Back to the Future.
This was one fun interview that you're about to hear.
But the point is, when it's a little bit disappointing, I tell you why.
Why?
Because when it all comes down to it, he's a nice Jewish boy.
Yeah.
Do you see that?
We just had a huge buildup, and the climax, if you will,
exactly.
to this,
and this was
is coming up right now on the other side of the break, is none other than Ari Nagel, better known as the Sperminator, not the Terminator, the Sperminator. 117 kids, a nice Jewish boy from Muncie, New York, coming up next on the Main Schmooze.
Do you want to help my son? His company, Content Partners Media, specializes in brand video and content creation for innovative companies and others. Please go to www.contentpartnersmedia.com and hire him. I repeat, please go to www.contentpartnersmedia.com.
Welcome back to Surviving the Survivor. It's time now for the Main Schmooze.
Karm, first mitzvah in the Torah. What is it?
What? I don't know.
The show has begun, Karm. Pay attention. Be focused. The first mitzvah in the Torah. How many mitzvot are there? I think it's
613.
630. Okay, so
damn it.
What's the first one?
Probably to respect your parents.
Please do not say God's name in vain. The first mitzvah in the Torah is to, quote unquote, be fruitful and multiply. The minimum requirement of this mitzvah is to have a son and a daughter. One who intentionally does not fulfill this mitzvah is considered analogous to a what? Do you know? someone who does not...
I knew the mitzvah that you puru and urvu.
And if you do not...
Don't worry, it's not going to be all biblical.
If you're not fruitful and you do not multiply, you are analogous to a murderer, for he too has depleted life and is said to be minimizing the divine presence in this world. So,
Joel,
one thing
you missed your vocation. I didn't know that you could be
I wanted to give you a little Devar Torah, a little study of the Torah before we get cracking here. But I can say this about our next guest. He is definitely not a murderer. He brings much life and much joy into this world. Are you excited to have Ari Nagel, a.k.a. the Sperminator, on right now?
I'm for the last 18 hours, I'm excited about it because that's when you told me about it.
Ari, how are you?
Never been better.
Is it okay if we call you the Sperminator or Mr. Sperminator, or what do you prefer?
Most of my kids just call me Dad.
Dad?
You know? Call me Big Papa.
Big Papa. You know? All right. Let me tell the audience.
Dad.
I'll tell the audience a little more about you. So Ari Nagel, as you can tell, is a handsome Jewish boy. 6'3", I believe. He's a math professor at CUNY. He's in his office right now. Those 1,000 pictures you see behind him are part of his family. He just showed us that he's got more photos. He's got piercing blue eyes, a magnetic personality. We talked off camera. We saw that already. He has 100+ children and counting. We're going to find out that total soon. Now, Ari, interestingly, was raised in the Orthodox Jewish community of Monsey, New York, which I know well because I know Rabbi Mordechai Tendler, because my wife converted to Judaism through a very Orthodox rabbi, and I used to spend weekends up in Monsey, which is kind of a lost land north of Manhattan. It is a very, very extremely Orthodox Jewish community. Rural Jewish community. Now, Ari grew up as one of 7 children. His happy childhood, he says, shaped his feelings towards having a large family, which is part of the reason he's decided to create his own supersized family. But Ari is way more than just a sperm donor. He's close with many of the mothers. He babysits. He attends graduations. He goes to birthday parties, which sounds exhausting. I have 3 kids of my own, and that stuff kills me. And he's even been present at a few births. Now, this is fascinating. Ari has donated sperm in, among other places, Target restrooms and the American Museum of Natural History, as well as countless hotel rooms. He says his life's mission is to spread his seed. He's been on Dr. Oz. He's been featured in newspapers in New Zealand, the Jerusalem Post, the list goes on. Screw Dr. Oz. My mother is a licensed marriage therapist. My father is a psychiatrist, retired now. I asked Karm, I said, Karm, what's up with Ari? Why does he like to have all these kids? What is your take? And Karm said to me, she'll deny it right now. She says he likes to F. Rhymes with duck. It rhymes with duck. Karm said he likes to duck.
I said that because he was annoying me.
Karm says he likes to duck. Ari, first question.
No, I liked it when you said some of these I did the old-fashioned way. So I love the idea of the 2 lesbians, and one of them is holding the hand of the other one like through a surgery.
Ari, do you like to duck?
What's wrong with that?
You
can say
actually, 100%. Yes, I do. I enjoy it. Unfortunately, I think I got like 14 women currently pregnant right now, and I could safely say that none of them were conceived the old-fashioned way.
Interesting. I want to get to that in a second, but I noticed in doing research about you that the Sperminator, the movie, there's a trailer. Is this movie going to happen? I think it was, the trailer is a couple years old, but I was curious. I think this thing would be a giant hit on Netflix. What's going on with this movie?
So that Sperminator movie was a mini movie. It was just 17 minutes long, and it was already released. I'll definitely send you guys a copy. But I was a little upset at them because they said, "Oh, we want your like old home videos." You know, my bar mitzvah video, my bar mitzvah speech. When I said it was, I tied it into the weekly Torah portion, but I said I'm going to bear fruit for my parents. Anyway, but I had it on a VHS cassette. So this agency said, "Oh, we'll convert it to a DVD." I gave them all my childhood videos, and then they lost them. And I was like, "What? That's all my family's childhood videos." Like my brothers and sisters were upset at me.
So you wait. You gave them the hard copies. You gave them like VHS tapes, and they lost the hard copies.
Yes.
Correct. Yes. Exactly. So is that a lawsuit?
Yeah, that's murder, actually.
Yeah. They got deep pockets.
Who are these morons?
It was an advertising agency.
Oh,
exactly. You know, anyway, that's neither here nor there. But what was the question?
Well, let's get back to what's important. So I read that in 2020, during the height of the pandemic, you had 20...
Oh, the Sperminator movie. Yeah, hold on. So I have Israelis that are doing a movie on me, and they did a full feature film, and that should be out, I imagine, by this summer. And then I'm also filming with CNN, who's doing like a documentary for Lisa Ling, and that'll be done in the fall season. But I'm filming with them Thursday, Friday this week.
Is that for CNN Plus, which no one's ever going to? I love you, Ari, but I'm a news guy, so I have bitterness.
I know, and when I was doing this thing with CNN, my dad and mom were upset at me because they like Fox News. You know, so I think they'll be happier that I'm at least with a Fox correspondent.
Yeah, Tom, you're talking to a Fox News guy.
Ex-Fox
News guy. So,
and his heart is not into Fox.
I missed that. So the movie, there is a full-length feature movie coming out about you, and where can we see that?
They finished it. They finished all of the music and editing, and they're going to release it. But you know where and when in the next few months. That's all I know. I don't think they have a buyer for it, but it is a finished movie. I was having trouble in Israel because I was banned by the government there, and this was an Israeli couple that said, "Oh, we'll start filming all your legal troubles there." And then after I was banned, and I lost the case, it went all the way to the Supreme Court. The story wasn't in Israel anymore, and I ended up coming back to the U.S. and all of the sperm that I had frozen at these different various fertility clinics in Israel, they destroyed. And so then these Israeli couple had to fly to the U.S. and finish the movie here, and that's what they ended up doing.
By the way, I was wondering because Joel and I are two weirdos in some way.
Speak for yourself.
So I include you. So we are not like mainstream values sometimes. Sometimes, you know, I don't know how the people respond to you, because for us it had like a humorous aspect to it, and also I'm very non-judgmental, and I was also thinking, oh, there are a lot of Jewish kids running around the planet now. You know, you made up for what Hitler did to us in a very small contribution, you know, compared to the numbers. But it's true.
Exactly. I have to schedule a trip to Ukraine next to help repopulate over there. All this terrible devastation.
All right, hold on. Let's get to some numbers here. So in 2020, I found this interesting. At the height of the pandemic, you actually bore 20 children. Or the women did, I should say. You had 20 kids in 2020. And then I figured you'd have 21 in 2021, but you actually had like 30 in 2021. Is that correct? And can you tell us?
Yeah, you're off by one. I actually had 21 in 2020, and then 31 in 2020. I'm sorry, yes, 21 in 2020, and then 31 in 2021. This year, of course, unless I have a stellar week, I already know it's going to be around 25, depending if everyone delivers on their due date. I have another week or so to conceive a child that would still be born in the 2022 year.
Okay, and you are a math professor after all, so as of right now, this moment, how many children are you aware of?
117.
Wow. And
wait a minute, I have a question here.
Karm, jump right in. 117
do you have
kids.
Like an objective? Do you have like an objective?
Do you have Valium on you? This is giving me anxiety now. Yeah.
No, but do you have an objective to achieve a certain number? Before I
think whatever my objective was, I definitely achieved all my objectives. So no, I don't. There was no goal. Like you know, you want a son, you want a daughter. I think and that's really what But it was never really about my objective. I think my objectives have been met, but I have a woman that's ovulating today, and I'm going to be meeting her this evening. And I could tell her that it's okay. I already met all my objectives. I got the numbers that I was looking for, and she'll answer me, I don't care. What about me? I don't have any children, and I just want my one. So, no, I don't have a master plan or any kind of objectives. In the end, ultimately, it's about just really, it worked out, and the moms are happy, the kids are happy, and someone's asking me for help. I think they're less concerned with how many children I have.
Now, let me ask you, I guess, maybe a crass question, but so you say you're meeting a woman tonight who's ovulating. I'm very curious about the process. So she is ovulating, which means she can get pregnant. You meet her. You do your thing into a red Solo cup?
No, it's not Solo. Is it?
That's what they're called, Karm. They're like party cups. And then, I mean, how does this work from a biological standpoint? She then injects herself with your semen? I need to know how it works.
It varies. There's lots of different ways to conceive, as I'm learning. And it depends. So if they're in their 40s or they have insurance that covers fertility, then I'm just going to go straight to the clinic and we'll do it there. Sometimes they might have health conditions that would preclude them from conceiving on their own. And then it's true that in some points I was doing it the old-fashioned way, but now that I'm helping more than one woman a month, there's no way that I could help them the old-fashioned way while still protect all of the other women that I'm helping that month, because I'd be putting myself at risk, which then would be putting all the other women that I help that month at risk. So the vast majority of the time I am giving it to them in a cup. Now, you could just use any cup, and I could put it into my coffee cup right here and then give it to them. And then they would take a syringe and put it inside, and that works. But the vast majority of women will use a menstrual cup. It's something that women use for their period. So it's not a pad, it's not a tampon, sometimes they have a diva cup or a soft disc, and they would use it during their period to hold the blood from spilling out. Well, they could also put the sperm in there, and then it'll hold the sperm close to the cervix, and it allows them to put it in anywhere. Just like if they get their cycle and they're a target, they'd be able to just pop in the soft disc.
No, wait a
they
minute.
could do the same. I put my sperm into the cup and they'd insert it.
It looks like a diaphragm, right? It looks like a diaphragm.
Exactly. Let me see if I have one. I might.
Karm, let me ask you this. How long does sperm live in a cup for?
Very little.
Very little, right?
But I don't know what the little
By the way, I was almost attacked by a raccoon last night.
All right,
in the
it's
wild.
not interesting.
No, it is interesting. And I looked at, do you know what the average age of a raccoon in the wild is?
What?
Ari, any idea what the average age of a raccoon in the wild is?
Yeah, I'm going to go with 10.
I went with about 8 to 11, 2 to 3 years. I felt horrible. A raccoon almost attacked me last night. Anyway, how long does sperm live in a red Solo cup for before it needs to be inseminated?
Yeah. Well, I got a copy. This cost 79 cents, and that's more often than not what I'll use. And I could open it for you so you could see what it looks like. But it's basically just a little soft disc. And you could buy a 14-pack for around $10 on Amazon or Target or CVS.
For those who are
Walgreens.
listening, this looks like a giant condom, basically.
No. It is like a diaphragm.
Yeah.
They were very fashionable.
It looks like a condom that would fit Ari, but not me, is what it looks like for those who are listening.
The point is that it's 79 cents and they can have a baby.
Okay, interesting. So, Ari, Dr. Oz, let's face it, you're on. I've actually interviewed Dr. Oz. He's whatever about Doctor. We're the real deal here. So what he did not go into, if you're willing to oblige us, can you take us back to like 1979 in Muncie, 1980? What was family life like? You come from a religious family. How many brothers, how many sisters, your mother, your father? Tell us a little bit about your childhood.
Yeah, well, I have 4 brothers, 2 sisters, so I am one of 7. And what's interesting is that every single one of them is in a very traditional relationship. They're all married with children, and they all married people from the community. So
like you said, your parents have 27 grandchildren, or
27 and a half. My sisters are going to be delivering in May. So it'll be the 28th without me.
So they're all.
Of course, in 2021, I had more children than all of my brothers and sisters combined. Took almost 30 years to produce, and I just did it in one pandemic year.
Take that,
and
family.
You would think my parents would have so much pride and joy, but unfortunately, they were already changed. So what I did want is because my folks spend the winters in Florida, and they just left Israel on Sunday for the holidays, but they were in Florida. So I was like, oh, I want to come with my mom onto the podcast, and then you really, Joel, will really be able to see.
Ari, we're going to have you back. We're going to have you back with your mother, but your siblings are religious. Like your sisters wear shadels, which is a wig, the whole deal.
Yes. One does. Maybe one wears a cap, that kind of thing. It's a modern Orthodox, but they're not hardcore Orthodox. So they're college educated, most of them. I have a brother who's a rabbi, but I also have a brother who's a psychiatrist, like your dad.
Oh, wow. So we know your family's a little strange, like my family.
Yes. My mother's not a doctor. No, he's a normal psychiatrist. But my mother's not a doctor, but she certified me as crazy. She says I'm crazy.
Interesting. What do mothers know? So your mother and your father, they're still married. Is your father a math guy? I know you're a math professor. Is he a math guy?
He's a math professor too.
He is.
Yeah, and my parents have been married over 50 years.
So now, I don't want you to take this the wrong way, but I noticed you're not wearing the traditional kippah, the yarmulke. So when did you kind of veer off the orthodoxy track, and why was it not for you? And why did you kind of go down your own path in life? How did that happen?
It's interesting because, first of all, growing up, everyone in my community looked just like me. So all of my classmates were other male Ashkenazi white Jews. That's it. There was no, I didn't even have any Sephardi Jews in my class. I didn't have any females in my class. And then I look at my family now, and you could see it on the wall behind me, but they're every different race, religion, and color, and you name it. But I was growing up in a ghetto, so it was a very insular community. We didn't really weren't exposed to any of the outside world very much. Around 17 years old, I got into a motorcycle accident. I had bought a motorcycle with some waitering money that I saved up, and it was actually 2 days before my brother's wedding. So my mother was very upset at me that I'm getting into an accident 2 days before my brother's wedding.
Hold on. How did you, like, at 17? I would never. At 52, I don't have the money to buy a motorcycle, but at 17, I would never go get a motorcycle because I know my mom would kick my ass. So right then and there, like, you were a rebel at 17. Like, you knew your mom would hate that.
I couldn't. I was waitering bar mitzvahs, weddings, just as a side job throughout my childhood for extra cash. A motorcycle was much cheaper than a car. Insurance for a 17-year-old driver is thousands of dollars a year, but my insurance for my first motorcycle was $40 a year. It was the most affordable possible route to get around town. But it wasn't my fault. And some guy who learns in a kollel, who's like, he ended up having very good insurance, but he went into my motorcycle, and I broke my leg, and the insurance company gave me $70,000 to pay for my pain and suffering. And I thought about maybe investing it, and my dad says, no, that's blood money. You should just enjoy it. So that's what I did, and I took it, and I traveled to over 40 countries with that money. Of course, I was in college at the time, but I was doing spring semesters, winter semesters, spring break, Easter break, summer break, and I traveled to around 40 different countries with that $70,000. And at some point over those travels, I ended up losing my faith. And not really. I still find and consider myself very Jewish, just not so practicing.
Interesting.
They're practicing in my own way, right?
So high holidays roll around. Do you go to shul or no?
I celebrate some of the holidays, but it varies. I pick and choose and do more of the fun ones than the ones that involve a lot.
I have a question.
Karm, this is your show.
Since you are now in a different place from the siblings, do you have friends who you can relate to?
A lot of my friends, almost all of them, were all, old elementary school and high school
but
friends.
Now.
Also, it's not, yes, I'm talking about now. I'm still friends with them, and we're still quite close. And I don't think it's unique, my scenario. I think there's a lot of people that would leave the more of an Orthodox Jewish faith and became more secular or flexodox, as they might call it, where they're just practicing in name only, but not so religious.
Could you still recite your Torah parsha? Do you still know it?
Adonai Anochi Nosein L'Snechem Hayom Bracha Uklala. I was partial.
Oh my God!
You're now
yes, of course.
God says in this what he just said. He says God gives you blessing and curse.
You're not our first.
So he's giving blessings.
You're not our first guest to do this. We had. Have you ever heard of MC Search? He's a hip hop legend. He was in the band, a rap group called Third Base, and he's still a rap producer. Nice Jewish boy from Queens. I asked him the same question. I got the same response. He started reciting his Torah. You're the second guy now, which is awesome.
But he does a better
you were
job.
You were asking for what moniker. I like Third Base as a moniker, but I feel like I could be Home Run. Right? That could be my new moniker.
You're definitely Home Run. You're the Grand Slam king. So, I read a quote that your mother, this is pertinent to you, Carmela. Your mother says she believes that you bring shame on the family, which breaks my heart because I know your mother still loves you, but has she told you that, and how does that affect you?
Almost every time we speak, of course. And I love my mom. She loves me. And we get along. We actually have a good relationship, but she doesn't want me to talk about my kids.
You know what this reminds me of? Like a guy who is tatted head to toe. I'm a big UFC fan. I'm going to a UFC fight this weekend.
Tatted?
Who has tattoos?
Oh, yesterday I donated to a MMA fighter.
Did you really?
And a tiny little girl. She was so little, but I don't know if she competes professionally, but she's very into MMA. And in fact, I said to her, "Oh, when you have this child, are you going to teach your kids MMA, or because it's such a brutal sport?" She's like, "As soon as they're infants, they're going to be training from childhood. She can't wait to." And then I introduced her because she met me downtown Brooklyn, and I had my kids that were there playing basketball, and my son is 6'5", so I was trying to get this little tiny girl to fight my 6'5" big son. And I already knew that she was going to wipe the floor with him because he's going to fall like a big tower.
See, but I love the fact that if I was looking to have kids, I'd have Ari donate to sperm. He's 6'3", he's got blue eyes. You have a chance of having like an athletic Paul Newman as a
Not only
as a
that,
child.
as a Jewish mother, he also is a mathematician.
And a mathematician, but imagine if he was like most Jewish guys, he was like 5'7" and bald. This guy's got a thick head of good Jewish afro hair going on. So, where were we just now? Oh, so your mother.
A Jewfro, not an afro.
Yeah, Jewfro. So your mother definitely. So you talk to your parents. It's not like, oh, I know what I was saying. I was saying that this gives me anxiety. So I'm a fight fan. You go to a lot of these fights. You see these guys who are tatted head to toe. Sometimes I will have dreams that I've had tattoos put all over my body. I once heard a comedian say tattoos are like getting bell bottoms sewn onto your ankles in the 1970s.
But
having kids are like...
By the way, Jews cannot have tattoos.
Correct, but having kids is like having tattoos. They never go away. And Ari, if he was a tattooed human, would have tattoos all over his body. Does it give you any sense of anxiety that you now have 117 children that in some way could be dependent on you? I can't handle the fact that my dog.
I'd like to get maybe. I know tattoos aren't allowed, but if I could and it was permitted, I would get a tattoo of my kids' names.
Ari, you've gone this far. I think you can get tattoos. No one's gonna know.
Yeah.
He's now a persecutor. He tells you what you can do and what you can't.
So let me ask you this.
Unfortunately, my body would be covered in tattoos if I got my kids' names in there. So,
but I have to
do
ask
I feel
you.
responsible? Yeah. Well, just to respond, obviously the arrangement is that the mothers are bearing much of the responsibilities. I'm almost like a fun uncle. I'm popping in for the party. I have my son's birthday party this Thursday. I'm going to go there. We're going to party. We're going to have a good time. And I show up and I'm not really involved in the planning or settling up the Chuck E. Cheese bill when it ends. So in some ways but as things have gotten on and obviously the numbers have been quite, growing, I've found myself bearing more responsibility than maybe with the initial arrangement because in the end, ultimately, they're my kids. And sometimes, like when the pandemic happened and the mom had to go work because she was an essential worker, but the daycares were closed, all of a sudden, the mother who didn't really want me involved was asking me to babysit 2 days a week. And then, I went to India in February, and the day before I left for India, I ended up getting a call from Child Protective Services that they're taking custody away from one of my mothers because I didn't know at the time, but she was schizophrenic. And then now I had the choice of either putting the kid in foster care or taking custody and control of that kid and looking out for it. So as things have gone on and on, I ended up having to assume perhaps more responsibility than I think was initially planned on. But
so can I ask you, what did you do in that case? Did you take that child on? That's a huge response.
Well, I didn't have a choice. It was either that or go to foster care. So what I did was and I was going to India the next day to help a couple there. So what I did was I ended up putting that child with another one of my children's mothers. So now at least the child is with family. He's growing up with his brother, and they've been watching him the past 2 months. And we have court hearings, and I'm hoping that with time, when she gets back on medication, we'll be able to reunite the child with the mother, and that she'll be able to assume her motherly duties. If that doesn't happen, then yeah, for sure, I'm not going to let the child go into foster care. I would take responsibility.
Karm, you had a question.
No, I had a question. I am married 60 years, almost 61 years, okay? And I had maybe this very stereotype idea, maybe, this is just in my own head, that one of the most important things in my life is my relationship with my husband. The both emotional, physical, on every level.
I thought it was with me.
That's what you hope. But in any case, he's married with a lovely wife. But to make the short story long, I feel that, I'm 82, and looking back at my life, it was wonderful that I had this kind of a life. It was very good for me. I don't know if for other people the couple relationship is important, because I don't think you have that.
Yeah, but there's a lot of love between me and many of the moms. It's not a romantic nature per se, but we do care about each other very, very much. But it's true. But to take it a step further, relationships are for a lot of people, but a lot of these mothers are single moms. They weren't meeting Mr. Right. And you were very, very lucky to meet your husband and have a wonderful marriage. But I think having maybe no marriage is better than having a toxic marriage, or a marriage where maybe they don't get along. And some of these women are phenomenal mothers, but maybe the relationship really wasn't for them, that they should still be able to
Ari,
have a family.
Ari, I wasn't thinking about them. Now that you mentioned they are also in the same situation, I was thinking of you. I realize, I worked in the world. I know that it's very hard to find somebody, and it's very hard to, get along with somebody. And many, many women cannot find that. And
my wife is beautiful, smart, caring, loving, warm, nurturing. No, nothing. She's perfect, my wife. My wife is perfect.
He's doing it for the tape.
My wife is perfect. I wouldn't change a thing.
That's a good point, and that's a good question. And it's what's more interesting is that I think a lot of people who don't choose a lifetime partner or a marriage are often people who maybe grew up in a broken home. But my parents had a wonderful marriage. They do everything together, and I grew up in a home with a very loving marriage. And so I think that you're starting to sound like my mother, because that's also what she talks about. It's like, look at the wonderful husband that I have and the wonderful marriage. How come you don't want that for yourself? I'm not lacking love in my life, so I have a lot of love in my life. Not just the children, but the moms as well.
I am very open-minded, and I've seen through the last 82 years many ways of getting, living your life and getting through. And many times I felt, whatever works for you is the greatest thing. I'm not judgmental. I'm just curious. Okay.
Karm, what would you do if I came home one day and told you I had 117 children? You had 117 grandchildren.
I think before I die, I would like to visit them all.
Would you?
I would. And I would care about them the way I care about your 3 children now. I really would.
Would you?
I think children are, children don't ask to be born. They are wonderful people. They're still not corrupted and
we say this tongue in cheek, but 6 million Jews were wiped out in the Holocaust. I think 1 million children, and Ari has done million and a half, give or take 500,000.
Yeah, well, you bring up a good point, because I very much want to meet each of my children, and have a relationship with them. And even if I can't be a full-time dad and tuck them into bed at night and tell them a bedtime story, I want to at least at the bare minimum let them know how much I love them and care about them and want the best for them and how proud of them that I am. But it might become untenable because 117 children is a challenge. But you talk about having a relationship with your grandchildren. And I think that how am I going to be able to have that kind of relationship? I was very, very close with my grandparents, and I would want to be able to have at least some kind of positive role in my grandchildren.
I have a question. Do you ever see yourself stop doing it? This is what you consider a mitzvah, right? A good deed. You consider what you're doing. Yeah. Are you ever going, would you ever be psychologically or otherwise ready to say, okay, I am now going to devote the rest of my life to these people that I created, and I'm not going to have any more?
Yes, and I think ultimately in the end, you asked me what kind of goal I have. It's not going to depend on the number of children that I have. It has to depend on my age. I'm 46 years old, and I think there's an age where it just wouldn't be appropriate to be ejaculating in Target restrooms anymore. I don't know what that age is. It's probably never appropriate. But at some point, yes, I think there's health risks associated with having a children in your 50s and 60s. So no, I'm not going to be doing this when I'm 50 years old, and I'm 46. And, I'm going to have a retirement party in the next few years.
Ari, I'm 52. I feel like I can keep going, Ari.
What retirement?
Physically, you definitely are. Physically, I'm capable of continuing to have children for many years to come, but I don't know if it's healthy, not just for me, but for the children.
As a side note to this entire interview, there was a news story yesterday. On a flight from Seattle to Phoenix, a man was arrested for masturbating 4 times on the flight. And I was marveling at that. It's like a 2-hour flight. At 21, I could have done that no problem. Now, there's no chance it would happen.
You would even be ready to be arrested for that.
Do you think you could pull that off 4 times from Seattle to Phoenix?
Men are so competitive.
Jewish guys they're aggressive. Jewish guys are aggressive.
I don't know what Jewish guys are, but all guys are.
I'm usually flying Spirit, and I'm literally bunched up against like the person on my right and I'm very lucky at getting the middle seat. And I think there'd be many issues other than my physical capability of doing that 4 times in that short flight.
Ironically, I think that guy was.
Ultimately in the end, sometimes I do have 2 women ovulating the same day, and it's very hard or difficult for me to say no to one, just because even though I could say, listen, wait till next month. Sometimes they don't want to. So sometimes I do have to, produce 2 samples in one day. But in the end, the second sample of the day doesn't have as much sperm as the first. I think sometimes you want to abstain for 24 to 48 to 72 hours in between donations, but sometimes that's just not possible. So even though I might be physically capable of ejaculating a few times in a day, in the end, the second, third, and fourth ejaculation will have very, very few sperm. The count won't be there.
Have you ever had your sperm analyzed?
Yes,
it seems like you're very potent.
What is this, 85,000?
All the time.
Oh, you do?
When I go to a clinic, they don't want to give the woman medication and all of that until they test the sperm. So all the time, while using a clinic, they will do a semen analysis before they put the sperm in to make sure that the sperm are swimming. I don't think that I'm more potent, and I think obviously it's probably hereditary. So my father had 7 children. My parents never struggled, and I didn't either. But really, it's because I have so many recipients is the reason I have so many children, not because I have super sperm.
But what are the numbers? I know that like I know somebody who will of course remain unnamed on this program who has, quote, a low sperm count. What is a good sperm count and what is a low sperm count?
Well, a lot of it depends on when my last ejaculate was. But when you're using a clinic, they don't need so much sperm because ultimately they just need that one sperm to fertilize the egg. But, roughly I'm making 100 million a day, let's say. So after 4 days of abstaining, I could possibly have a 400 million sperm count. And then it's not just that, but it's how many of them are swimming. So then you would have a percent motility. So they measure the volume, but the big measures are the count, how many, and then how many are swimming. And then also they measure the morphology, which is the shape. And you want those three factors to be very, very good in order to have a quality sperm count. And around 50% of couples, it's the male that has the issue as opposed to the female. So it's not always the woman. Half the time it's the man that has problems. And that's why some of the families that I helped are heterosexual couples.
So you mean, you said in 50% of the cases, the men have the problem?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. And a good sperm count, you would want 40 million, honestly, would be acceptable. And anything more than that, in some ways, maybe extraneous. But they want a 40 million, and then maybe they'd like 40% of them to. But really, I think you need a minimum of 15 million, I think, to go forward. So if you're producing at least 15 million, you're fine. And then you would want at least 40% of them to be motile.
15 million.
When you get a semen analysis, it's only, per ejaculate.
Wish we had 15 million subscribers.
15 million per what? Per cubic what?
Per milliliter. It goes by milliliter.
Per milliliter. No,
Why did Dr. Ruth call it spermatozoa? No one else ever called it spermatozoa.
Because she wants to be fancy and she knows all about penises and vaginas.
By the way, we're trying to get her for our Yom HaShoah episode. We're really reaching for the stars.
I just saw her the show. She had a wonderful show. I think Tova Feldsha played her and was fantastic. Was the story about her life?
Yeah,
she was fascinating.
She's 95 now. She's hard of hearing, but
yeah. By the way, what do you do between these good deeds that you are doing for the?
Yeah, what do you do for fun besides ejaculating?
Yeah. That answer to that is right behind me. It's not just the making the baby that's fun, but it's also taking the baby that can be fun as well. So, of course, spending time with my children, which is yesterday I went to the aquarium with 3 kids who are on spring break this week. One was my son who flew in from Georgia to spend the week with me. He's 12 years old. So we got to bond this week. And then tomorrow I have a birthday party, and then I have a party with some of the moms on Friday. And
117 kids keep you busy. 3 kids, and I never stop.
Yep, I have on average at least 2 birthdays a week because with 52 weeks a year,
exactly.
And then don't forget that I have around 14 women pregnant. So in fact, on the 16th of April, I have 2 kids turning 1. And they're both turning 1 on the exact same month, day, and year, except, of course, they are not twins. They're born in different cities. So it's interesting that they share a birthday. And I have that for a couple of days. Like December 19th, I have 4 birthdays in one day, but they were all turning different ages. But on April 16th, I have the 2 kids that are turning, and that I have 2 kids in Israel that share a birthday. And then I have 3 kids. November 22nd of last year, I had 3 kids born. One of them was born in Asia, and then the other 2 were twins born in Hungary. So you have these 3 siblings, and of course, one is talking Hungarian and is Christian, and the other one is Buddhist, and obviously they're different religions, different languages, different continents. There's nothing in common. The only thing they have in common is their birth date and that they have the same father.
You should be sponsored by Chuck E. Cheese, like you as a human being. Everywhere you go, there should be a Chuck E. Cheese.
Or Delta, so I could get out and visit these kids because I do want to see my kids in Asia. In fact, yesterday I had an appointment at the U.S. Embassy in Budapest to try and get these kids a U.S. passport because this woman is freaking out that Putin might invade Hungary. And she's like, we got to get these kids U.S. passports. So unfortunately, they declined me because I was missing a form, but I'm going to print out the form today and FedEx it over and try and do it without having to attend. But I am able to get all of these children that are born abroad U.S. passports.
You know what's amazing? Ari seems, and maybe I'm wrong because people can present themselves in a different light than they actually are, but you seem like a very upbeat, happy, positive kind of guy. I have extreme anxiety listening to this. Just my 3 children terrorizes, and not only the effort of taking care of them, but the financial burden. But you seem just so easygoing. Is this real or is this a front?
Yep.
Are you a happy guy?
you know, some of the women choose me because I'm very tall, right? And some of them choose me because I have blue eyes. Some of them choose me because I'm good at math and they suck at math and they want their kid to be good at math. And then sometimes the reasons are different. They choose me because I'm Jewish and maybe they want a Jewish child because of their faith. And sometimes it's just a lesbian couple and I look like a little bit like the partner. So the woman who carries wants me to look. And then sometimes the reasons are very, very, more spiritual, like, oh, he has a big heart and I want my child to have a big heart. I don't know if that's even hereditary. I even had one woman ask me how big I am because she doesn't want her child to suffer from any inadequacies and wants them to have the confidence. And she wanted to know, is it a large, anyway. So the reasons vary, but I think that I don't really care if my kid has blue eyes or is good at math or is tall or any of these other qualities. The one attribute I'd like to give to my children, and it's all I really wish for them, is that they should be happy. And I'm a very happy person, and I think that is hereditary.
That's awesome. Let me get to something that's important here. So we talk about all these kids, but you at one point had your own nuclear family, and I think the New York Post wrote something about this. You'd been married for 12 years with children, I don't know how old they are now, but at one point they were 12, 5, and 2. And then apparently when you spoke to the Post, you caught your wife off guard and said she was devastated by the article, had no idea this was happening. How could your wife, first of all, how old, you have 3 kids?
First of all, ask him how did the marriage happen? Because the marriage happened in a certain way.
Oh, then Karm, you asked the question. Go for it.
First, I think he put the cart in front of the horse. I think the whole thing. Bad metaphor. Metaphor. I could use another image here, but the point is that you actually married the mother of the. Correct me of the child when the child was. I don't know if it was.
Let me ask this question.
Do you understand?
Do you have an original family, wife, a traditional family that you then broke off from?
No.
Right. You can't really believe everything you read in the Post. So the Post knew the story, but sometimes that's not sensational enough, and they preferred to somehow pretend like somehow this mom didn't know about my other children, which is impossible because I have children with me all the time. So that was not completely factual. I've been married a few times to some of the moms for religious reasons, for legal reasons, for family reasons, but all of the marriages were essentially fraudulent. I wasn't defrauding the woman that I was marrying. These were marriages of convenience. Sometimes they were illegal in the country, needed their papers. Sometimes they wanted the child to be accepted by the community because they were very religious, so we wanted to do a religious marriage. And then sometimes the fertility clinic doesn't want to treat you unless you're married. Obviously, that's not the case in the U.S., where it's the Wild West of fertility and anyone can go to any clinic. But in many countries like France or Germany, you have to be married in order for you to go to a clinic and conceive. And when they're in other countries, sometimes it's very challenging for me to fly out every month when they're ovulating. So that necessitates it. But none of them were real marriages.
So you never had, quote unquote, a normal family that you began with. Your first children.
They're all normal. Yes. But I never got down on one knee and had a normal wife.
And when did you, when was your first child conceived? Numero uno.
18, and he's 18 years old. So my children are 18 and under, but the one is 18, the rest are 13 and under. So I had 116 kids born in the past 13 years, but I was doing around 2 or 3 a year for the first couple of years, and then once the New York Post put me on the cover on one Father's Day, that I really started to have more, and I'll have roughly 25 this year, give or take 2.
So was there a moment in time where you said, you know what, I'm just going to keep having as many children as I can have because this is either fun or I'm doing a greater good? Was there a moment in time where you were kind of struck with this notion to do this?
You know, you do it once and the kid's happy, the mom's happy, and then someone asks you to do it again. And you know, sometimes over 40 of my children have a full sibling. So a lot of the children that I had was just a mom coming back to me asking me for another child. They don't want the kids to be growing up alone, and they want the children to have the same father. So over 40 of my children do have that full sibling where it's the same mother and same father.
So wait a second. if 40 out of the 100 and something are doubles, so you have fewer families, fewer women that are the mothers of your children, right? Virtually half.
Correct. And then sometimes,
you see the
yeah,
point?
and that's not quite half. You could, not quite half yet, but the truth is that sometimes it's a lesbian couple and each of the moms carry a child, right? So those wouldn't be full siblings. So there's actually fewer families than that because sometimes there might be two lesbian moms and each of them carried a baby. Those children are growing up together and I'm sure consider their siblings full siblings, but biologically they'd be half siblings. But I was only saying that I have over 40 that are full siblings where they have the same mother and same father.
Ari, what do your students think of this? You're a math professor at CUNY. Are you a legend there?
Yeah. First of all, I also have 7 sets of twins. No, I'm not a.
7 sets of twins.
Yeah.
Yeah, my students, I had 3 sets last year, so that was my breakout year. It was part of the reason I had that stellar 31 kids in one calendar year. And one of them was born in Europe, one of them was born in Africa, and one of them in Connecticut. But I have, it's funny because I brought my daughter to work on Monday, and because she's on spring break, so I was like, oh, she wanted to come to work. She said she was going to clean my office. I don't know if you could see, she did not clean my office. And then I have all these pictures that were taken during the pandemic, and I wasn't at work, so I have to hang them up in my office. But she said, I'll hang up my picture. She didn't do that either. But I pranked her, and I told one of my students, I said, you know what? I have my daughter in the office right now. Go up there and ask for me. And when she says I'm not there, offer her money to use my computer to change my grade. You know, so that she could change her grade and update her grade. And I want to see if my daughter is going to really allow somebody to go sit at my desk and change my grade. And I was shocked, but she went up there and my daughter said, sure, and took the $100 and like it was nothing. I don't know what they're teaching her at school, but she was just saw the $100 and she had no more.
But I assume
so I'm not doing a good job.
Your students know
ethics and values.
Your students do know that you are the Sperminator, correct?
They do not. Apparently, they're not listening to Surviving the Survivor. But I did tell them I'm going to be on a podcast today and that they should all subscribe.
Please reiterate that. Please, I will donate my sperm if they subscribe, please. So, a couple interesting things. Like you've had kids, as you mentioned, I read in Africa, Georgia, the country, not the state, Barbados. Who is paying for you to get to these places? These are the mothers? Or the
yes, and some of these articles aren't completely accurate. It's true I was in Georgia, but a lot of the times when I'm traveling to these countries, like I went to Barbados, the mom lived in Jersey. She just didn't have insurance that would cover her fertility treatment. So it was cheaper to go to Barbados than it was to go to a clinic in New Jersey to get the flight. So she did reimburse me for my flight, but it was really a small change considering to what it would have costed at a clinic here in New Jersey, where she wouldn't have had to pay anything. So ultimately, in the end, the flight's the cheapest part. IVF fertility treatment. That mom that I went to Barbados was 52, so she needed a clinic, and the clinic here would have charged north of $15,000, and in Barbados it was at least half that. So the $500 ticket wasn't an issue. It was during the pandemic, so I know I went there for 2 days, and they said, "Oh, when you come, you're going to have to quarantine for a week before you could go leave your hotel room." And I was only there for 2 days, so I was like, "I'm not quarantining for 48 hours. I'm going to jump in the ocean." But they gave me a red wristband, and they said that to show that I had to quarantine. But as soon as I got to my hotel room, I ripped off the red wristband, put it in my pocket, and I jumped in the ocean. And then I went to a deli to grab water because it was so hot, and I was fishing change, and my red wristband fell to the floor. And there was a police officer in the deli looking at this red wristband falling to the floor, starting to look at me like, "What the heck's going on? How do you have this red wristband?" And I just gave some baloney excuse of, "Oh, my quarantine is over. I'm here," and I was there. Yeah, I walked down, and the cop was just lazy, and he looked the other way, and he didn't want to get off his chair.
Oh my! This is unbelievable.
But you know what? You should not. Do you teach statistics? Because you sure have your statistics in your head.
I do teach statistics, and this week I'm doing binomial probability, which is like the probability of having a boy or a girl. And currently I have 59 boys and 60 girls. It's exactly, basically half and half, but almost half and half, of course, because I have an odd number. It can't be exactly half and half, which is the most probable outcome, but it's very, very unlikely.
Which is the most exotic?
Yeah, girls. There are more girls in the world than men, right?
More girls and boys.
I don't think that has to do with conceiving, and it probably depends where. Because I know in China they have more boys because they have this one-child policy and they were aborting the girls.
By the way, they don't have the one-child policy anymore. By the way, I didn't have a chance because Joel just told me about you a very short time ago, and I was busy.
Oh, I'm sorry, Karm.
And I was busy.
Next time I'll give you a month's notice.
Okay. Anyway, Elon Musk, translation from
it's
Elon
not
Musk.
mask, it's Musk.
Musk.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
By the way, he just decided to buy Twitter.
But he allegedly.
I decided to buy my kids an ice cream cone, and I'm doing math in my head. Speaking of math, this kid, Elon Musk goes and buys Twitter. By the way, Ari, what is the financial burden?
Let your mom finish the question.
Oh, sorry. Karm finished the question.
To me all
Karm finished the question. Then
anyway,
we'll get to finances.
I'm not the victim. So what happened? Allegedly, Musk gave a big speech about how the planet is not populated enough. Did you? I was going to Google it. That we need more people on this planet.
Musk should sponsor you.
That's interesting because the second richest person, Bill Gates, is trying to do population control. So it's funny that the two of them are competing against each other, one giving to charities to help populate and one giving to do population control.
You know what it is? 1 plus and 1 minus equals 0, right?
Ari, how do you handle the financial?
Leaving out in the end.
How do you handle the Is there a financial burden, or the mother is taking care of the kids?
I'm completely broke. So yes, I do struggle financially, but if you look at my bank account, it looks like I'm very poor, but I'm like the Elon Musk of the joy and love. So I think I feel very, very rich when I look at the wall behind me of all my children, even if my bank account would disagree.
Now, this right here, to me, is the most fascinating part of this whole interview. If you listen to Surviving the Survivor, and you probably shouldn't, you'll find out that I have a lot of anxiety related to finances and money. But to hear someone say what you just said, like, for example, I will drive through Miami Beach and I'll see someone driving a convertible Bentley with a red leather interior, and my initial reaction will be to smash into their car. It bothers me. I have anger issues. You
have the used Volvo, so you have a safe car to smash into anyone you want.
Yes, but you do not strike me as that type of guy.
I have a used Volvo.
You do not strike. You strike me as the type of guy that says, you know what, you're in a Bentley, but I have 117 children, which you will never ever have. Is that your attitude in life?
I have 117 children, so I have 117 million in the bank minimum, and if someone asked me, would you trade, one of your 117 kids for $1 million? I mean, that's like, I don't know,
would you?
Which one? No, you can't. You can't. What I have is going to be is brings me a lot more love and joy than a robust bank account.
Nice. I like to hear that. This actually really brought me joy.
Yeah.
So Ari,
I from all I read, and I read very little, you have enough to live on, sort of modestly, because I think you were sued by some of the mothers for child support.
Yes, and but listen, I'm not struggling financially where I'm homeless, because I'll never be homeless, okay? Not only will I never be homeless, I don't ever need to pay for a hotel either, because I have so many homes where I'm welcome, not just as a guest, but they welcome me as family, and I'm very, very lucky in that regard. And it's not just, of course, the 117 families who feel very, very indebted to me. I have very good friends, and of course my brothers and sisters. I slept on my sister one night this week, and I have a lot of homes. When I go to Miami, I got lots of places to stay. I have 11 kids in Florida, incidentally, but of course I also have my parents live in Florida for the winters, and then I'm thinking maybe going for Passover, and then I have a lot of good friends.
Are they in Miami?
Yep. In fact, I have a friend who's extremely afraid of COVID, so he's been hiding in his parents' basement in Queens, but he has a great apartment in South Beach. So not only was I using his apartment in South Beach, but my son was there for spring break, and he partied like a rock star, and we've been all using his. My nephew was staying in his apartment. Thanks, not.
Ari, bring your 12 kids over. We'll have a pool party. My kids will love it. My kids will absolutely love it. But yeah. I'd love to meet you in person.
Yeah, I don't have any kids in Miami per se, but I have good friends. But I have kids in Boynton Beach. I have 3 kids there, and then I have kids in. I have quite a few kids in the Orlando area, and then I have a daughter in Jacksonville. I have a daughter in Sarasota.
Now, do they ever get together, all of them, or some of them?
Not all of them, but some of them, of course, all the time. Sometimes with me, and many times without me. So if there's a birthday party, they'll get there. And then not only that, but a lot of moms go on vacation to Orlando, and they might get together with some of the other moms that are from Orlando. So they are. And of course, it depends if the kids are close in age. So like my daughter in Jacksonville is close in age with my daughter in Orlando, and they go to each other's houses for the weekends quite often, and we'll celebrate all their birthdays together.
Where is the most?
Especially since some of the families that I helped are only children, so they very much appreciate the fact that their kids would be able to have a brother or a sister that they'll be able to bond with, and that they won't be alone. Okay. Because in the end, you only go ahead.
No. I didn't want to interrupt you, but I had this little fantasy of one of your moms after you had the baby meets a wonderful guy. Did you ever run into any problems with the guy being threatened by you?
No, especially since we really weren't romantically involved. And not only that, there's not really jealousy amongst the moms either. You would think that the guy who had children with different moms, there might be bitterness between them, but there's no such thing. It was just a lot of love. They consider their other children the aunties. In fact, my children are being raised. I have a lesbian couple, and they broke up, and the birth mother did not get custody of the child. It was her lesbian partner that took custody of the child. But then she got engaged and married to a guy. So now you have this mother and father who's raising my son, but neither of them are biologically related to the child, but the child has a mother and father in his life. But I get along with him very, very well. They invited me all the time to come visit. So no, I think he loves our son, and he wants them to foster a relationship. So there's no jealousy.
Which is
sometimes it is a little like if there's a heterosexual couple, remember, that might reach out to my help, then it varies. Sometimes they don't want me popping in for birthdays. A lot of the families do keep to themselves and are very, very private. So they don't always want me to play any kind of role. A lot of times the families don't feel like they want me in their lives at all. They are happy for the help that they got, but sometimes we may remain friends on social media, but I'm not really popping in for visits.
Which is the most exotic locale where one of your children lives?
I mean,
do you have like a kid in Dubai or something, or Saudi Arabia?
No. And not only that, I don't have any Muslim children either, because in order for the child to be Muslim, it's paternal. It goes after. So the only way I could have a Muslim child would be if I converted. And sometimes I have women that ask me to convert just so that the child will be Muslim. Apparently, it's not so complicated or difficult like it is to convert to Judaism. I think you just go in and say a few sentences, but I never followed through with that.
Ari, your mother would not be able to handle that. Please don't do that. Let me ask you.
Exactly. I had kids born on 4 continents in 2021, just to give you an idea.
Listen, this is interesting. The U.S. State Department of Health at one point said you needed to apply to be a licensed clinic, like you were the clinic, and you had to stop advertising your services. Why are you not considered a sperm bank, the Sperminator? Like, why are you not a sperm bank?
Yeah, it's interesting because they read an article in the Post, and then they said, what? This is not appropriate. And they sent me a letter to cease and desist, or they're going to prosecute me because I'm breaking this law. So they actually sent a letter to my work. I don't know. I guess they didn't know where I lived, so they just sent the letter to my office, and I ended up responding because they sent it in certified mail. And I responded, asking what part of what I'm doing is illegal. I mean, I was trying to say, well, what if the woman produces the sample and I'm a hands-off person, so I'm not breaking the law. They're the ones breaking the law. Or what if I just put it on their breast instead of a cup? Would that make it legal? Like, what exactly that I'm doing is making it illegal? Is it the fact that I'm putting it into a cup and I'm giving it to them? And when they started to read about the different scenarios that I'm doing, I wasn't advertising my services. I wasn't selling my services. I wasn't, storing the sperm. And, in the end, I was just giving them the sperm for free. Apparently, they said, we reserve the right to prosecute in the future, but you can continue doing what you do.
Ari, allow me to live vicariously through you for one moment. When you were doing this the quote-unquote old-fashioned way, how many, was there a moment in time where you were doing this more than once in a day, or how many times a week? And take me into that world for a moment.
Yeah, sure. I was growing up in a bit of a ghetto, very insular. I didn't even know how to make a baby until I was too old, well past puberty, and that's where I learned how to make a baby. And certainly when I was in my 20s, and I really only started in my 30s, starting to have a lot of children. I didn't know of another way to make a child except the old-fashioned way. I didn't know that I could put it in a cup. I thought maybe sperm dies when it hits the air, but it'll last, at least for an hour. And then I started to learn about the different ways, and that I even once mailed my sperm to another state, and then she put it inside, and it worked. You just have to mix it with like a little bit of egg yolk, like a CYB, some kind of solution, and then you'll be able to overnight it with FedEx, and then they'd be able to conceive that way. Of course, the FedEx is going to charge about as much as the flight, so sometimes it's not really worth it because you really got to overnight it. But now I know, of course, many ways to conceive. But when I was doing it the old-fashioned way, I was not helping 10 women a month. That would have been untenable, because then you can't have unprotected sex 10 times a month without eventually just not helping these women, but you'll end up infecting them. So no, I was not doing 2 women in a day having unprotected sex and then putting them at risk like that. I only really started to get busy, and then that's when I stopped doing the old-fashioned natural insemination.
I'm not that jealous then. Karm, no, go ahead.
There's a lot of guys that are looking for easy action, and they'll be. It's very easy to go on you can go on the subway in New York, or go on Facebook, or any one of these dating websites, and find guys to donate your sperm for you the old-fashioned way.
And Ari, how often are you, Dr. Oz, that putz, he said that after you did his show, I think 100 people from his quote-unquote audience reached out. How often are you solicited? And now that you've done Surviving the Survivor, are you expecting an onslaught of women looking for your services, since we are a global show?
Yeah, Pakistan.
Do you have kids in Pakistan?
Yes,
we have viewers in Pakistan. Do you have kids in Pakistan?
I do not.
You might after this.
No.
But I did go.
Forget it.
Yeah, I did go to I went to India recently, but it didn't work. So I'm going to need to go back. But I was trying to help a heterosexual couple there, so I'll have to go back. It's just our dates aren't lining up with my work, and Passover, apparently she didn't ovulate over Passover, but that's when my vacation is for my spring break.
Yeah, but are you asked often to donate, and how do you pick and choose?
I try and help whoever asks. I'm not discriminating. I don't know what questions I would ask to qualify someone who deserves to be a mother. It's true, I had some issues and perhaps some bad press for some of the women that I helped, saying, wait a minute, they weren't fit because maybe they were too young, or maybe they, weren't financially secure. But what's interesting is that the fertility clinics don't ask too many questions either. The only question they ask is, what's your insurance, or can you self-pay? That's it. Those are the only 2 questions that they ask. Can you pay us? They're not qualifying them with any kind of psychoanalysis or anything else other than just testing to make sure that they're fertile and that they can pay. So I'm not quite sure I need to put additional hoops. In the end, there's different parenting styles, and I accept that. I mean, what should I do? Should I run their credit to see if they're worthy of becoming moms? I probably have half the amount of children that I do now.
I'm thinking, what would people be concerned about? I'm not so concerned about it, but if they wouldn't know of each other and each other, then one of your sons could fall in love with one of your daughters.
Dr. Oz brought this up. I don't like this argument. It's not
an argument.
There's 7 billion people on this planet.
No. I think what he's doing, it's not like anonymous. Like in a clinic, you go and you get your sperm and you don't know anything about the person. You don't know their health. You don't know their medical background.
You're saying that one of his kids could end up...
No. But I think he at least lets people know he's doing something more positive. Because they know each other and they know, no, you cannot do that. That's your brother.
Yeah. And I'm not anti-buying anonymous sperm from a bank. I think it may be right for certain families if they can afford it, and it's a good decision for them. But I think giving them another option is probably also helpful. I think the real issue is not that even when you donate anonymously, I think these issues for siblings meeting with each other is only for anonymous donations, not for known, where every single one of the mothers know who the father of their children are. And the children will know as well, even if they're keeping it private from them as infants. At some point when the kids are going older, they're all going to share who the father of their children are. So I don't think it's an issue where siblings might meet. But I don't even think that's the issue for anonymous donors because of, listen, I'm in New York City. New York City greater New York has probably over 20 million people. And the protocols of the American Society of Reproductive Medicine recommend maybe 25 donations per city of 800,000 people, which would mean that even if I was just in New York, I'd be able to have over 600 children anonymously and still be under those protocols.
See, the math, listen, Ari, the math always comes back as part of what you're doing. You always have the statistics, the math, the
Well, Ari, listen, we have to wrap it up. Carmela has instituted a law on surviving the survivor, a credo, if you will, where I need to ask guests how I can help them. So
because he had this disgusting habit of, could you do this for me? Could you?
By the way, Ari, do you have a social media following? Are you going to be able to help promote this show, or? I should have looked into that.
What do you mean he has a social...
I'll definitely share my link with the 117 children, so you'll get at least 117 subscribers. Some of them have 2 moms, so you could at least double or triple it.
I'm holding you...
I'm not very active on social media. I'm nervous to post on social media because I'm never quite clear which moms are comfortable with me posting and which ones aren't, and sometimes that's hard to keep track. So I let the moms post, but generally I'm not active on social media.
By the way, I am terrible with names. How are you with names to remember all the names?
I have 100 students a semester, and at the end of the 12 weeks, I'll know all of their names once I see them every day. Yeah. It's true. You could quiz me now. I have 11 kids born in 2022 so far. So I may butcher some of their names or not remember some of their names for now. But as these kids get older and I start attending their birthday parties and start to get to know them, I'm going to know all their names and their birthdays.
But I know Orthodox people who have 108 grandchildren. And these darn women know their grandchildren's names. I can't remember names. So,
Karm, at least you know faces. Yeah. So anyway, Ari, back to helping you.
So my niece is just gave birth a month ago. She's having a pidyon haben tomorrow.
Right.
I don't know if you know what that is,
yeah.
but it's a ceremony that you do for a newborn.
A month.
Yeah. But I remember that, Passover is coming up. I remember a few years ago, we went to a Passover program for, at a hotel. And and my niece was there also with her family trying to meet a husband. And there was a Holocaust survivor. And my parents have a theory that if you get a blessing from a Holocaust survivor, that it's going to come true. So we went to this Holocaust survivor who was another guest at the hotel and said, can you please bless her that she should find a suitable, good husband? And then what's funny is that a year later, we went back to this Passover program in the same hotel, and that Holocaust survivor was still a guest there. And he came back and asked us and said, hey, did she ever meet anybody? And she had gotten engaged the day before. So it really did work.
Amazing.
I had the same experience right here in the condominium in Miami. my daughter came from Jersey.
We just discussed this on the last episode.
Yeah,
the problem with having Ari and you, the two Jewish people, is I can't wrap this segment, and we have like 15 minutes. I'm going to have to filter the rest of the show. But the bottom line, I will finish your story, Carmela, because you'll take 8 hours.
Okay, I do.
Carmela herself, someone stopped her at the pool at the Blue and Green Diamond.
Now, like 6 months ago.
And asked
for the
Carmela to bless her. So can you please bless Ari for 117 more children?
I bless all your children.
First of all, thank you. I don't need any fertility blessings. I'm very happy with the amount of children I have, and first of all, my nephew is taking the MCATs on Friday, so I think he'll be upset at me if I didn't ask if you could bless him to pass. But the blessing I'm going to request would be, that I'd like all my children to be as happy as I am. If you could.
So that's exactly what I was doing. I said,
Karm, please do the sign of the cross. And
I bless all your children with long, healthy, happy lives and being loving to their daddy.
And happy.
And happy.
And Ari, my token of gratitude to you, Passover is coming up. I would like to invite you and your 117 kids to my parents' house for the Seder. Please join us.
Yeah.
You know how much a pound of shmura matzah is?
Yeah. We'll get a few pounds. We'll get a few pounds. Thank you so much. You're a gentleman and a mensch. We wish you all the best. And I'd actually love to meet you if you're going to be here in the Holy Land, the other Holy Land.
Mostly in the winters, but maybe I'll come down for Passover. That's usually what I do. And my whole family's all going away for Passover.
All right. Well, happy Passover to you. Thank you.
Happy Passover. Be well.
We'll be right back with the new schmooze.
Welcome back. It's time for the news schmooze.
Karm, so what did you think of Ari, the Sperminator?
I told you.
Just a nice Jewish boy?
A nice Jewish boy. I think.
Is he a little meshugana, as they say?
Let me tell you something.
How do you diagnose this guy?
I don't know what math he teaches or what, but he's definitely, he should be teaching statistics. He has so much statistics with this, and I wonder if he ever registers all this. If he keeps a diary, because he knows how many twins he has, he knows how many they conceived.
What days children. He has kids on multiple birthdays. I mean, Karm, this is.
But that's because he has a brilliant mind.
This is next level crazy to me. The guy seems like a super sweet guy, and
exactly.
I'm jealous because he does not worry about financial issues. He just kind of lives his life. But here's the thing.
No, but he's very, 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 very bright.
Yes, but I can barely take care of 3 kids. Barely take care of 3 kids. And I am...
Now you are heard about the term pussy. Aren't you a pussy? Like a pussycat?
They...
little fluffy...
The 3 kids plus the 2 dogs, and I'm done. And this guy has 117 kids. And these kids are going to grow up. They're going to want things from him. He doesn't realize that, I don't think.
They already want. The mother sued him for child support.
It's crazy. I don't know. I wish him well.
But they cannot get from him what he doesn't have. He literally lives on the bare minimum. He has an old car, a small apartment, and he lives from paycheck to paycheck because he has to pay child support to some of these children.
And money is just not, money's not an issue to him. Never has been. He's not one of these guys that's a money guy. He's a math guy. He's a math guy.
Whining about money.
On to the news schmooze. Man, I've interviewed a lot of people, but this one took the cake.
No, I don't. I felt it was totally within the range of the normal.
I knew you were going to say that, just to be contrarian. So annoying. There's nothing normal about that. I have these anxiety dreams that I get tattooed, and I can't get rid of it. And this is like that dream on crack times 1,000,000. Like, imagine 117 kids. That gives me so much, it just makes me tense thinking about it. Karm, on to a story, speaking of 117 kids, I know will make you upset. Republican House lawmakers in Oklahoma gave final passage to legislation that is going to make performing an abortion a felony punishable by up to 10 years in prison and fines of up to $100,000. You'll be shocked to know that this is a GOP-backed bill. It passed the Senate, and it now goes to Governor Kevin Stitt.
Any
and
abortion?
He's vowed to sign all anti-abortion laws that comes to his desk. Now, to answer your question just now, the bill will make it a felony to perform any abortion except those deemed necessary to save the life of a pregnant woman, only in a medical emergency. Everything else is off limits. Roe versus Wade, sayonara. What do you think of Oklahoma?
You know what I think?
Yeah, what do you think?
Back to the Middle Ages.
Yeah.
Buy a lot of metal hangers.
What would you do if you were in Oklahoma?
To do the abortions with metal hangers.
Oh, that must hurt.
They die.
Yeah, that must hurt. This story I thought was fascinating. A carpet cleaner. He heaves his machine up the stairs. He untangles the hoses. He promises to dump the dirty water only into the approved toilet. It's another day scrubbing rugs for less than $20 an hour. This is in Washington. He's working in a home with overflowing bookshelves and walls covered in travel mementos from places that one day he would love to go and see. But this carpet cleaner is not just any carpet cleaner. He is a hyper polyglot. Do you know what that is?
Travels a lot?
No. His name is Vaughn Smith. He's a hyper polyglot. He's fluent in 8 languages, conversational in more than 25 others. By his count, it's actually 37 languages that he can speak, with at least 24 that he speaks well enough to carry on lengthy conversations. He can read and write in 8 alphabets and scripts. He can tell stories in Italian and Finnish and American Sign Language. He's now teaching himself indigenous languages from Mexico's Nahuatl to Montana's Salish. The quality of his accents in Dutch and Catalan dazzle people from the Netherlands and Spain. There's a moral to this story. Do you know what it is?
Again, money is not the matter.
That's sort of it. You see a guy in ripped jeans, his belly hanging out, and a torn t-shirt, and that guy is worth maybe $500 million. You see the guy in the Bentley, he's worth $20. You never judge a book by its character. This guy...
By its cover. But what is a person who travels? Something...
A traveler.
No. I will look it up. I know there is
I think you're trying to...
No, 100%.
Psychologically, what I think you're trying to do here is prove to the audience that you're more intelligent and that there is a word out there similar to hyper...
It's called...
Polyglot that has to do with travel, but there is no word like that. Hyper polyglot means speaking multiple languages. But who would think that a carpet cleaner making less than $20 an hour speaks 37 languages?
I got the point the first time. You don't
be
have
careful
to make
I try to drill that into my kids. You don't know who anybody is or what their skill set is.
I drilled that in your head.
You look at Ari Nagel. You think he has 117 children?
Yes.
You see him playing.
I would only think 116.
On to the last story here, and then questions, and then we wrap it up. This is a story near and dear to my heart. This was a poll called One Poll that showing that 2/3 of Americans claim they spare no expense when it comes to their 4-legged companions. Out of 2,000 dog owners surveyed, 4 in 5 say they pamper their dogs as much as possible. 3/4 of respondents consider their dog a member of the family. The same number are willing to go the extra mile for their dog since they have an irreplaceable bond with them. In fact, 79% of dog owners want to give their puppies everything they need to feel loved. What percent do you think say it is important for them to be regularly groomed?
Very few.
80%. And
really?
Of those 80%, how many... Of that 80%, how many take their pup, like me, to the salon at least 5 times a year?
Probably all of them.
half of the 80%. And by the way, when Mabel, I tell my kids this, it's impossible for Mabel to be any more beautiful. When the groomer comes, they're only cleaner. Mabel is only cleaner, not more beautiful. It is not possible to be more beautiful.
May I say something? We all know you are a dog lover, and I'm glad you didn't watch the news last night.
Story. That's a sick story. That guy needs to be murdered. That guy needs to be put to death.
Yeah,
a guy in Miami opened fire on a dog in a crate. He
was like he was in a daycare center. The dog because the owner was working, and he always
was it his dog or was someone else's dog?
No, this was the guy. He was a veteran who had But
what did he think the dog was coming? Yeah.
And he got this dog from a pound, and then he began to love him, and the dog psychologically cured him, and he loved the dog. You should see the eyes of the guy who owned the dog. And the crazy other guy came and shot the dog for no reason.
Why? Why did the other? So did the owner?
We don't know the motivation.
Is the veteran just beside himself?
Very, very, very sad.
You know, this could result in a suicide. This guy.
I know.
But let me tell you something. The guy who shot this dog while in a crate.
He's in jail. He's in jail.
That's a serial killer, and he needs to be put in. He needs to be hanged in a public square.
We know that you love dogs more than people.
We will be right back with 3 questions for Grandma in the nick of time.
It's time now for 3 questions for Grandma.
Karm, we really talked to the Sperminator longer than I thought we ever would.
Okay, do the 3.
I'm exhausted.
Why are you exhausted?
That was a long, hard interview.
No, but the guy's brain works, and you know how when they had the records.
If I did this, Karm, you'd call me a moron. But since this guy had 117 kids, now you're saying how smart he is. How do you know how smart this guy is? Just because he's good at math?
No, just in the conversation. He was very quick, and he responded very fast.
His mother, what do you think his mother's thinking, his Jewish mom?
His Jewish mom is a little bit uncomfortable.
She's got to be a little wacky, I bet. I'm curious to meet her. Okay, 3 questions for Grandma.
He's not a very religious. He's modern religious.
Modern religious. His siblings are religious. Religious enough.
Yes, religious.
First question, which has been lingering in Zizi's mind for the whole week. She's asked me this question multiple times. 6-year-old Zizi Bugs. She goes on boats now that we live in Miami, and I have neighbors that can afford boats.
Okay.
I afford rubber ducks for the bathtub, but others afford luxury boats. Okay. So Zizi was on a boat.
What did I tell you?
Don't compare myself to others.
No.
Oh.
What did I tell you?
Rubber ducks are better than boats?
No. No, I told you. When Zizi said, how come we cannot have a boat?
I forget what you told me to say.
I said, you should tell them if you had a boat, you couldn't go to that other neighbor's boat, and then he would have a boat for nothing because he couldn't take people on a ride. You are doing a good deed by not having a boat and going on his boat.
So here's her question. When people go on boats and you move, why does the ocean behind you turn white?
The foam. The
wake. I believe it's called the wake. Why does it turn white? She wants to know specifically.
I think there is air in it. Air. No,
are you making this
little
up?
Air bubbles are coming out of it.
She wants to know why it is white. She's fixated on this and wants to know why it's white.
Maybe the oxygen makes it white.
Tell her you don't know.
Okay, tell her I don't know.
Vita Leah, age almost 8. Why are there other planets, but some of them don't have oxygen and you cannot step on them? Probably because they're pretty far away. That's for starters. But I get what she's saying. Even if it was right there, you wouldn't be able to step on it.
Yeah, why don't they have oxygen? Why don't they have oxygen?
See, kids ask good questions. Would you ever think to ask this question?
Never.
What do you think it is about kids? They're just finding out about the world, so they ask these dumb questions, which are actually smart.
Brilliant, but what happened to I think you need to create oxygen. You may need water, and you need maybe other ingredients on that planet.
Final question.
But I'm gonna Google this
Final
because
question.
I feel like a super dummy.
Final question from Judah Mack, who you told me yesterday was 3, but he is 2. He's not 3 till
He's
May.
3 until in May.
Began boxing with the Dempsey Lions yesterday with Josh Dempsey, one of the great boxing minds of our generation, who's teaching my son at 2. Judah Mack, this question came directly from his mouth. I swear on Ari's children.
Okay.
This morning came from his, because he gets involved now. You said, Vita had to translate it a little. I didn't fully understand it the first time, and then I did.
Because he has a little, like he calls the
phone the tone.
The phone the tone.
He says.
And he says me instead of I.
How do you put a charger in a laptop, and how does it work? How does it charge?
Yeah, the electricity goes from the wall in that wire into the.
Look, he already knows
phone.
about laptop chargers. He's 2.
He knows a lot.
Smart kid. He's an awesome boxer. His kid's going to kick some ass. Ari might have had 117 kids, but I don't have one that's going to kick the crap out of all Saudi Arabia with his biting skills.
Ari feels bad that he cannot be there for them to tuck them in and read them a night.
Karm, a final word about this Sperminator episode. Do you think we get views on this one?
Very honestly,
yeah,
I'm not so sure. Our viewers are kind of very unpredictable.
Yeah,
things that I was 100% sure that would interest people just because they interest me. We got like Fear of Flying, we have no viewers, but you have no
very few. But Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein through the roof.
Yes,
you mentioned Chris Hansen through the roof.
People are like that. People are like that.
You can say what you say behind closed doors, Carmela. You call them dumb Americans. Maybe we should
never.
Yeah.
I never call them dumb Americans.
Maybe we should call the show.
I call you a dumb American.
America, love you. We'll see you next week, same time.
Don't say things like that because that's so snobby.
Love you, America.
Love you.
It's true.
Bye. It's not true.